how does all the money printing crush the little guy? How do leftists who want to have their favorite politicians get credit for a stock market at all-time records, but then also want to blame the greedy corporations for raising prices? Does it seem like these two can coexist side by side? These are the questions that I'm going to answer. You see, the other day I was sucked into left-wing Twitter, and I was able to witness the dichotomy of the leftist mind, those with zero economic understanding. Here are two posts that I saw, one right after the other. Can you please stop talking about the Trump economy? 4 years ago, the Dow closed at 19,200. Today, the Dow crossed 40,000 for the first time ever. So yes, we are better off today. And I get that people are upset about higher prices, but what I don't get is why people are furious at Biden instead of the corporations who raised prices to rake in record profits. The elevated prices which we see today are, of course, what lead to the so-called record profits, which is the fault of the greedy corporations. And, of course, when you have such record profits, that in turn leads directly to stock market going higher, greater multiples on higher earnings, which, according to these insane people, Biden and the Democrats deserve credit for. Well, to some degree. My job here is to explain the mechanics and what is actually driving these two phenomena side by side. First of all, when you spend more money than you have, as both Trump did during 2020 and Biden has been doing on hyperdrive now, you are living on the high. You are also flooding the system with dollar bills, which raise pricing levels the same way if you poured water into a bathtub, doubling the level of H2O there, the level at which rest all the rubber duckies and boats, aka prices, will rise along with it. A rising tide raises all ships. Think of an economy, for an example, with $1 million available and 4 houses. Suddenly you double the money supply to $2 million. What then happens to the price of houses with all that extra made up cash circulating around like a tornado that is chasing these assets? Well, the housing price, as you will have likely guessed, doubles. But did everyone get wealthier because the nominal price of a house increased? The number of homes, well, that didn't change, only the pricing mechanism. Similarly, the price of everything in the economy doubled because, as I said before, a rising tide raises all ships, in this case, prices. That means the value of the house retains the same buying power in terms of real goods and services that it is worth, except you'll have to pay taxes on the so-called profits, so you have actually, in fact, lost value to the government. Let me emphasize this. The true wealth of a nation, of an economy, is measured by the amounts of goods and services that are available to the public, not the price function by which it is measured. To prove this, let's take a look at by far, the best performing stock market until very recently on the planet. Let's head over to Africa and Zimbabwe, where the stock index 8 years ago was at the 100 level. It subsequently rose to 3 million. Seriously, that is a 3 million percentage gain in the stock market. I guess that means Zimbabweans are now the wealthiest, best off people on earth, according to leftist logic. They can merely come here, bring their currency in the trillions, and buy America. End of story, correct? Well, no. Actually, there are less goods and services available today to purchase within the country of Zimbabwe. This is from the removal of white farmers from the land that they owned by the state. In other words, from meritorious productions to reparations and DEI. This is from the Cato Institute. The production of farm goods in Zimbabwe dropped significantly after the land reform program which involved the removal of white farmers from commercial farms. Estimates suggest a decline of around 60 to 80% in total food production within a decade. Sharp decline in output. Commercial farmland lost a significant portion of its value. Food production, especially export crops like tobacco, plummeted. Zimbabwe, once known as the breadbasket of Africa, today faces food insecurity and at one point actually required international aid. But anyways, let's do the same thing here in America. Let's bring similar policies that proved horrendously destructive back to the United States. But this simply doesn't change the fact that according to the same people advocating for exactly these policies, the U.S. is by definition better off with a stock market that is hitting all-time highs, even though the market on a percentage basis has not advanced 1% as far as Zimbabwe's did. So then this begs the question, why is the stock market going up? Could it be advances in productivity like AI, which brings greater efficiencies? We've definitely seen some of that. Or could it be largely the printing of money and the massive deficit spending that our government has been engaged in? And as described, what happens when you print all that cash? As the price of inputs like oil and labor rise, prices around the economy do the same. Again, you are merely flooding the bathtub with cash. And let's say you are the much maligned grocery store manager. Will you run your business at a loss? No. In order to continue to serve the public, you are of course forced to mark up what you distribute from your shelves. But because of competitive pressures, you are still operating on a very tiny razor-thin profit margin, which is your incentive, of course, to show up and make sure that the business runs smoothly, servicing the people of the United States. So let's just use a simple example. If I sold something at $10 previously and suddenly my costs doubled and I had to sell it for $20, assuming a profit margin of say 10% for simplicity, my profit doubled from $1 to $2 at the $20 level. Record-breaking profits! Hurrah! My stock price goes up. Except that because the price level of everything doubled, I unfortunately have the same buying power with said profits as I had previously. But the people who are wealthy and are able to store their money in the stock market see their asset values rise in nominal terms. Their wealth, their assets are protected from the inflation because of their ability to raise prices on the goods and services that they sell. The people who are absolutely skewered in this scenario are workers, savers, and those who are on fixed incomes. Laborers, because wages are generally far more sticky and are delayed in terms of going up in price, because it's very hard to argue over and over again for an increase in your wages with your boss, and it goes up much more slowly compared to the price of oil, which responds nearly instantly when the Federal Reserve announces that it's going to flood the economy with currency. And anybody who was saving in cash under the mattress, with the amount of currency doubling, has had their share of wealth diluted by 50%. The government is stealing from you, and the rest of the people on the planet for that matter, because at least for now, the US dollar is seen as the worldwide store of value. And thus we are able to export some of this inflation to suckers holding US currency around the world, rather than it being localized as hyperinflation in the United States, as you see in other countries. And then those that are printing the currency have the cojones to put the onus, the blame on your local grocer, on the mom and pop gas station owner for the rise in prices felt by the consumers, which was caused by the politicos. And all of these leftists on Twitter want to give Biden and the Democrats credit for a rising stock market and state that we are far better off than when Trump was president. But they in turn want to blame greedy corporations for record inflation-driven profits, which the stock market directly accounts for when calculating the present value of the company. The Elizabeth Warrens, the Joe Bidens, they represent Wall Street. And as they fleece the workers and middle class and transfer your hard work into their own pockets, into the pockets of their wealthy constituents via crony legislation, via printing all that money, as well as the stifling regulations that they enact that crowds out competition. But like a good little politician, they shift the blame to everyone but themselves and get their weak-minded acolytes, their propaganda teams, and their sock puppets to crow for their supposed successes and put the blame on others for the damage that they caused. It's cynical. It's evil. They crush you, your life work, and your family, and get so many to blame those bringing you these exact products and services that make your life livable, and get their mind virus infected zombie army to propagandize for them on Twitter to gaslight the public. And that, my friends, is the true reality before you today. I only hope that I've been able to shine a light on it for you to see it as it truly exists, rather than in the shadows and lies that they cast upon it to obscure the blame from where it belongs, themselves.